Meow everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat. I'm going to go through my top 10 stock exposure, kind of give you a little bit of very short snippet for each one of these. My first holding is going to be Palantir. Initially, I really thought that Palantir could potentially pull down back a lot further, potentially even down to around 25.5, somewhere around there. It's certainly possible. And there is a ton of support underneath, including the Subichi cloud, including the Ichimoku cloud, tons of support underneath, including the 20-week moving average. There's a lot of various support underneath there, right? So I initially thought that it could potentially pull that down to 25, but it could also find support here around like the 30 range. Nobody really knows, right? Because you have a very, very important Fibonacci level here is there's 0.618, which usually serves as pretty decent support or resistance zone. And it looks like it's bouncing pretty decent over here on the top of this big giant volume shelf. It also is looking like it's forming a nice hammer candle over here, right? So that allows room for it to potentially go up a lot further. If you also look at the Bollinger Band, there's room for the price really next week to potentially go to like 34, 35 for the next couple of weeks, which could be kind of where price is going to go. It might end up being in the new range between 30 to around like 35, 36. I think it's entirely possible. And that would be kind of like at the Fibonacci level here, as well as kind of at the fork over here between these diagonal lines. So on the monthly, I do not think that price can close that much further on the monthly. The reason why is because I think we're already kind of way outside the upper Bollinger Band. So we are a little bit overextended here on the monthly, but could remind you that next month the Bollinger Band is going to continue to expand. So there's going to be room for Palantir to keep it going up higher over the next month. And you also have this increase happening on increasing volume. So all of these things are working out very, very nice. Although I think the short term, we are a little bit exhausted in terms of the weekly trend here. We don't really have much volume over here, but because of this hammer candle, it does favor continuation. So I am not going to try to be cute and try to sell it and try to buy lower. I'm just going to keep holding. And I'm also, it's a little bit elevated, so I don't really want to necessarily buy more, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about Palantir. Real quick on the next one, next up is going to be Tesla. Tesla, I really do think most likely the month is going to end up closing above the 20-month moving average, which is pointing up. And currently it's around 212.49, somewhere around there. And I really do think that this month really generally just has another trading day left tomorrow. Probably going to end up closing about that area, and that would be bullish. Now, you can close about the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud, which is going to be around 213.15 there, even be better. It doesn't have to. If you're not closing below both of those numbers, it's still about the Tenkan Kijun. I still find that to be a positive development because it broke through and back tested a lot of things this month already. Right, but if it's able to close about 212, 213, I think you're going to end up having some pretty decent bullish continuation here. And there's really not much overextension here. If anything, I think Bollinger Band is squeezing. That does tell me, with the 20-month moving average pointing up, that does tell me Tesla probably over the next few months or so is probably going to end up building a pretty nice bull trend moving up. I do not think it's just going to shoot up to like 300. I think it's going to take some time. But this is Tesla. It can do whatever the heck he wants to do. Right? But overall, I'm pretty bullish on Tesla. Nothing is really looking that overextended. You are kind of underneath a little bit of resistance here on the weekly, right? So I don't think things are going to shoot up. I do think that things probably need some time to kind of play out to kind of get back above the cloud. Although in terms of the Subichi, it just looks like it's just basically doing a little bit of a back test of the Kijun and maybe a little bit of a back test of the Subichi cloud. So I can totally see it closing about the Subichi cloud above like 213 or so, and that would be bullish. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm saying about on Tesla. Next up is NVDA. And just real quick, NVIDIA really didn't end up being that bearish. I really didn't think that NVIDIA was really going to close that far above because it's a little bit overextended. If you just look at the, not the Subichi, look at the Ichimoku cloud, it's still a little bit too far away from the Tenkan. It's probably going to need some time to catch up. We did touch it this month, which is promising, but we just simply gotten way above the Bollinger Band for way too many months, and we're just correcting sideways. I did not think that we're going to close above 129. I think it's probably going to close the month right around where it's at right now, which is actually not a bad close. If you ask me what I expect to happen with NVIDIA over the next couple months, probably going to end up going sideways, to be completely honest with you. While we might have a little bit of rotation to small caps, to like fintech, maybe even to Bitcoin, like to Bitcoin miners, things like that. I think that's entirely possible. But I do think that right now the NVIDIA trend is starting to get a little bit exhausted because the lower Bollinger Band is starting to kind of roll back a little bit. So this could be a trend where it is starting to see a little bit sign of weakness. And I do think that this stock probably at least have another 2 to maybe 3x for it moving forward. So I think 300 is entirely possible. 400 is also possible, but I just don't think it's going to make another 10x anymore. That's NVIDIA. Next up is SOFI. With SOFI, there are some very positive development that's happening. First of all, is reclaiming the rising 20-month moving average so far. We'll see whether or not the month closed this way. It's a very, very nice hammer candle, kind of like how it was over here before a big move up, right? So right now it's building a lot of positive energy. I'll see whether or not this ends up playing out here over time. And just overall, it is kind of at multiple resistance here. It's hitting resistance on monthly Tenkan Nikkei. It's also hitting resistance here on the weekly cloud. So I would not be surprised if you end up having a little bit of a rejection, coming back down to like 7.5 or 7.3, somewhere around there, trying to grab some additional liquidity, trying to cool down some additional time before going push back up. But overall, like, I cannot really be that bearish on this stock. It's just doing what it's supposed to. It is also hitting a little bit of an upper Bollinger Band resistance here too, right? So I can totally see it coming back down to like maybe 7.5, 7.3, wait for some of the Tenkan or the 20-week moving average to kind of go back up a little bit to kind of help push the price up higher. I don't think it's just going to break about like the $8 range. I just think it's going to be pretty tough to, if it does that, if it just breaks above resistance, I mean, that would be very, very bullish. I still think eventually it's going to come back down, back test some of the stuff underneath over here. But I just don't think that, based on technical, I just don't think that it's going to be able to push back that far above. It probably is going to take a little bit longer time. But it's okay. I have time. I can wait for SOFI. And it's been very, very important that it is breaking through a diagonal line over here. It was also breaking through the entire bear market diagonal line over here. Over here, you have a little bit of a false breakout. Over here, you have a couple of wicks over here. But this really does look like a true breakout, and it could potentially come back and back test this around 7.3, 7.4, 7.5. I totally see that happening. And that would be a bullish development before, further bullish continuation, because that would be a higher low after it just formed a higher high compared to these wicks over here. So I like SOFI. Anything under $8, I'm going to try to buy as much as I can. I might even continue on DCA, even about $8 all the way to maybe 12, 13, 14. We'll see how it goes, but I am still very, very bullish on SOFI overall. It did also reclaim the boomerang support band, which is somewhat of a bullish development over here as well. So that's SOFI, but it's under beneath resistance. But those are my thoughts. The next one is Shopify. Shopify just looks like it's tired. It's just needing to take a break. Whether or not it's going to end up getting rejected and it's going to go back down here maybe to like 67, 68 range. To kind of back test this horizontal level, which I think is entirely possible. And that would be healthy because that's where the 20-week moving average is probably going to end up pushing up, and that's also where my support band is going to be around. So it's entirely healthy if it comes back down to like around 66, 67, 68 to back test that level, and that would be a resistance flip into support, and that would not be anything bad. Could it potentially go down further to the Fibonacci level back to 60? I think it's possible, but at this point, I just don't find that to be that likely anymore. Because I think that this big giant candle over here is a bullish engulfing candle for like 10 weekly candles before that. So I just find it to be a little bit less likely at this point. A couple other things too, on a higher time frame, the 21 moving average is serving as very, very good support. And also, if you look at the Ichimoku on the monthly, is reclaiming the Tenkan Nikkei. So the next place is going to end up gravitating for longer term over the next few months would be to the top of the cloud over here. It got kind of rejected over here back in February 2024. It's probably going to end up re-challenging that again. And it's very, very nice, the fact that it formed a higher high here and a higher low here. This is still a bull trend, and this is still, a bullish setup here moving forward. You did have a bullish cross, and price is currently above the Tenkan Nikkei here again, right? So there's really nothing bearish about Shopify at this point. And before there was a little bit scary in the weekly where it kind of broke underneath the weekly Ichimoku cloud, but right now it's no longer scary. It's just the fact that it had, declining volume on this uptrend, so, get rejected at the top of the cloud here. As I said, it would not be the end of the world if it comes back down to like 65, 66, 67, 68 at the bottom of the cloud over here to do a little bit of a back test before going further, form a little bit of higher low, which would be healthy for this. My next exposure is AFRM. AFRM has just had a huge breakout. You have a little bit of a bullish cross over here. I think it's going to end up turning into a katana moving forward, actually. So that would be very, very bullish, because that would actually cause it to have some further bullish continuation. It just broke through the weekly Ichimoku cloud. I don't know whether or not this next month is whether or not Friday is going to have correcting. I do get worried a little bit that it's getting a little bit too overextended, because the upper Bollinger Band is right now like around 37.7 and price is around 42, 43 all day so far. But I just have to kind of point out, sometimes you just end up staying above the upper Bollinger Band, price can still go a lot higher, right? Like this big giant green candle over here, it did that, and then price continued to go up for another 3 or 4 weeks, right? So I don't necessarily think that this is something that's ornaments, and I don't really necessarily want to sell out of it, especially when this big giant move is happening on increasing volume. And I do think that this is a little bit of a trend change, because the 20-week moving average is really nicely pointing up, and also on the weekly, the Tenkan and Kijun are crossed, and it might be forming a little bit of a katana moving forward, which is going to be a very bullish kind of setup moving forward. But could it come back down and retest some of this stuff, maybe the top of the cloud around 38, 37? That's entirely possible. Or even like if it ends up coming back down here and back test like 35, 34 range, that would still be bullish, because that would be a higher low, right? Is it guaranteed that it's going to do that? No, there's no guarantee that any of this is going to happen, because right now the bull trend is developing, and it looks like there is a lot of momentum that is moving forward, and there might also be some fundamental change here as well. Another thing that really does get me a little bit worried is I think we're hitting the Tsubishi cloud over here. We may end up getting rejected here in the short term. Again, coming back down and test like around 34, 35 range. I'm probably not going to buy here anymore, but if it gets back down to like 34, 35, I might try to buy that a little bit more to kind of solidify my condition, my position before it does what it has to do. But yeah, I'm bullish on AFRM long term. I just hope that you guys don't ape into AFRM today, because I think most likely it's going to end up having a little bit of retracement. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not going to sell and try to buy back lower. That's just not how I roll. Next stock that I have on my top 10 is Mara. Mara is basically just following up this channel over here. I do think that the next stop, and I talk about this a lot, I do think the next stop is going to be around 20 bucks at the bottom of the cloud over here. It kind of did a little bit of a back test of this diagonal zone over here, so I think next is going to end up gravitating towards this area, which is around 20 and a half or so at the bottom of the weekly cloud. Do I think that overall in the longer term that is bullish? I do. It is underneath the monthly Tenkan and Kijun. Unfortunately, I would like to see it kind of get back close above that. But right now it's got a very nice hammer candle. I think this is like a very bottomy type candle. And this whole big giant wick underneath right there has like no volume. So they really just trying to test and trying to get retail to capitulate over here. And if you end up capitulating over here, I'm sorry. Like if you end up selling around like 13.8 or something like that, I'm sorry. Like that's not, just like this big giant wick up above, that was to grab liquidity to the upside. This big giant wick down below is to grab liquidity on the downside. But overall, it's been forming higher highs and higher lows. Is a big channel up. And also it has found support in the 20-month moving average. On top of that, on the Tsubishi, it's still stuck in a range. That's all it's doing. But it's been consolidated far enough, and there's still a channel up, and it's still for the most part a higher low. I think that is probably, if you give it time, it's probably going to end up going higher. I just don't know when that's going to be. Is it going to be September, October? I do not know. There's a good chance that Q4 could be a chance for Mara to follow up this up channel to go up higher. But so far we're just waiting. Right now it's still stuck in a range, and that's Mara. With CleanSpark's got it's my another one of my big position. CleanSpark, I really like to see the month close above 11.54, which is going to be a very important Fibonacci level. If anything, it's just kind of got rejected at this 0.5 here and back testing 0.236. So if it ends up just being a big giant wick underneath and we end up closing about 11.54, that would be bullish. But we just have a hard time kind of doing that right now. It's just unfortunately just been a very brutal month for CleanSpark. Do I think price is going to get up to like the 1.618 and 2.618? I still think it's possible. Okay, because this is just a higher low, and sometimes you can have with a minor stock like this, you can just have like 50% up in like a week. You know, like it could just keep on happening. Like that would not be surprising to me. And if anything, this is still a higher low. And if anything, it's just been back testing a little bit close to the 20-month moving average. So overall, there's still nothing too entirely bearish about this stock, except for the fact that it's just dropped a lot over the last 6 months, all the way from like 25 bucks all the way down to like 9 bucks, right? But so far, it's maybe finding support at a volume shelf over here. I really like to see it close about 11.54. If it doesn't end up doing that, I don't think it's the end of the world. But yeah, that's CleanSpark. I do want to see it kind of close back about the 11.54 area here, if at all possible. But either way, it's trying to reclaim this volume shelf, so I really can't be that bearish. It just seems like CleanSpark just been bouncing one foot level to another. And right now, as you break through like 2 or 3 fib levels over here with this big giant move, and it's just kind of back testing 2 fib levels down below, and I like to see it holding if possible. So we'll see how Friday goes. But that's CleanSpark. And then my last one on that top 10, actually Bitfarms is my second last one. With Bitfarms, I really don't have much to say about it, with the exception that Bitfarm really just looked like Mara, and so far it's getting rejected here at the 0.236, which is around 2.4, actually around 2.5. I was just rounded up, but it's also trying to find support here, this big giant volume shelf over here, right? So I do think that most likely price probably going to end up challenging this channel. Is going to end up keep going up over time. And once it breaks the 0.336 around 2.5, the next level is going to be this level around 0.382, which is where it got rejected previously, around $3.7, $3.8. And I think it's probably just going to keep following up with this channel to keep going up over time, right? And it's not surprising so far it's getting rejected on the weekly cloud. And you know, we'll see whether or not with this channel going up, whether or not we can challenge the cloud and eventually break through and go up higher. But so far, this is just basically the same technical analysis as I have for Mara. It is back tested the 20-month moving average that's going up, found support, and it is also you know, in the range right here is stuck between Tenkan and Kitchen. This looks a little bit better than Mara, to be completely honest with you. But if you look at the SOFI, is still stuck in a range, right? So there's really not much different from this stock compared to like Mara. It's still stuck in a range. We'll see what happens. And then my final one, the 10th one, is going to be Robinhood. Robinhood has just had a very nice hammer candle over here that back tested the monthly SOFI Tenkan, that back tested the Ichimoku Tenkan and Kijun, and it basically bounced from all of this, right? It has also successfully back tested close to a rising 20-month moving average. So really, there's nothing really bearish about this chart. Initially I was a little bit worried about it being a little bit too overextended, away from the 20, away from the Ichimoku Tenkan and Kijun, but right now it's just at a big giant wick, really got close to or deck tested a lot of these things, and it passed. So I'm no longer that worried about it anymore. On the weekly chart, there's a very nice combo that it might be starting to set up. I don't know whether or not the 20-week moving average is going to hold. If it does hold, then it gets really bullish. It could go down a little bit further to like 19 or 18. It's entirely possible, especially when you have the Tenkan and Kijun underneath around like 19 and a half. I can totally see that, and maybe also Tsubishi cloud over around 19.4, somewhere around there. I can totally see kind of back testing that zone around 19 and a half, 19.4, and that would be a very bullish if it's able to pull up the upper Bollinger Band, lower Bollinger Band, and then come back up, back test the 20, and then go up a lot. It could set up a pretty powerful move after that. But that's kind of what I'm seeing here at Robinhood. Overall, it's just been mostly forming higher highs and higher lows. There's really nothing bearish about this chart. I'm very, very happy and confident that I think Robinhood is going to do pretty well moving forward. Anyway, I just went through 20 stocks. Sorry, not 20 stocks. I went through my top 10 stocks within 20 minutes. I hope you enjoy a quick rundown like this. I try to do these video where I just go for as many stocks as I can in a shorter amount of time as much as I can. Anyway, take care. Have a good one. Bye.